Welcome back, everybody, to the NARPM radio show. And as promised, I have Sam Eddinger here with Ironclad Property Management out of the Northeast. So we don't have many of our members out of the New York, Connecticut, tri-state area. So Sam, thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks, Pete. Enjoying being here with you.
So you've kind of started getting a following on social media from some property managers. I know I'm now a follower, and you always have some really good ideas. So for those of you that are listening, you should probably go look Sam Ettinger up. I'm sure he will accept your friend request, but he is a good follow, and he also does a lot of stuff in a lot of the property management Facebook groups. So thank you so much for giving back. And one of the things that you talk quite a bit about is working with your significant other, right? And so having like I call my old partner Steve like he's like my work wife almost, right? So like we had like this kind of interesting relationship by being business partners, but I never worked with Felicia, my wife. So tell us, what is the secrets to that?
I don't know if there is actually a secret. I think some people do it better than others. I think the main thing is to figure out ways to not take it home with you. And trying to understand the specific strengths and weaknesses of each party and try to have it cater to that. So I know that a lot of my inspiration came from my parents. So my dad was a business owner. He owned basically construction on the side. My mom would do his invoicing. And then also my dad owned real estate. My mom would do the collections and a lot of those activities, a lot of the paying out invoices, and my dad would, be the handyman to fix stuff. And so a lot of times when I try to model it, at least for me, I try to say, okay, what is the unique strength of my wife? What are the things that she would love doing? Because for it to be successful, you need to have at least one person focusing their efforts on the areas that they're uniquely great at. And so my wife, we have her as our business development manager because she loves people. She loves going to events. She loves meeting people. I don't like that stuff as much. And so it really works well because we can complement each other. But, my wife was really afraid when we were starting this and she was joining the business because she thought that it was never going to stop. But one thing that's really great about me is I compartmentalize really well. So when I'm at work, I don't want to even think about my house. When I'm at my house, I don't want to think about at work. So people talk about rituals. I have a ritual. I get up in the morning, I wake up my kids, I do a few activities that I do every morning. Then I ultimately go drive the kids to the bus stop, and then I continue to work. It's part of my ritual. I get in about 6:40 in the morning, and I work till about somewhere between 3 and 5 in the evening. And then I end up going home. And when I go home, I'll check my email, but I'm really not doing anything. I'm not talking to my wife about work. I'm talking about the kids. We're doing activities. We're triaging because the fact we have 6 kids, there's constantly something that we have to do, some emergency that we're dealing with. And so I don't think about it at that point. So that's what works for us. I've seen other relationships where the husband and wife really integrate completely together. Business and family is kind of very much integrated. We try to keep everything kind of separate, compartmentalized, because that works really well for me.
A lot to unpack there. So first question I have is did you and your wife do some kind of personality profiling, or you just, I mean, obviously you're married, you know each other really well, but did you actually just kind of do that just to make sure it matched with the job skills that the jobs that she was going to do and you were going to do?
Yeah, we have done some, but I knew her, so I knew what it was going to be. We've done the disc profile. She's an IS. I was kind of hoping she'd be an ID, right, or DI, because that's the traditional BDM. But she's an IS. At this point, I'm a CD. A lot of people think I'm a DC, but I'm a strong C, conscientious, from my engineering background. We actually just read a book called Six Working Geniuses. Peter Lencioni brought it in 2020. And that actually talks about like what are your unique geniuses and kind of how to put people in places to be successful in their ongoing work. The acronym for it is WIDGET, which stands for wonder, invention, discernment, galvanizing, enablement, and tenacity. I'm a W and a T. I'm wonder and tenacity. I'm at both ends, which means I think a lot about a lot of things, but I also like to get stuff done. And everything in between I don't like as much. My wife is an I and a D. So even in those things, we actually complement each other. She likes to come up with inventions and, has ideas of what she thinks is good or bad. And so we really do complement each other well in those regards.
Now, do you have a physical? By the way, Patrick Lencioni, I love all of his books. The Five Dysfunctions of Team is probably
Sure.
one. Death by Meeting is another good one, and I'll tell you that story one day when I sent my old boss the Death by Meeting book. Uh, so, do you guys have office space, or do you office out of the house?
So this is our office space right now. I bought an office building about a year and a half ago, and I moved into it. I'm the only one that goes to the office. The remainder of my team, everyone's remote. They come in to get keys mostly. I have an ongoing meeting with the team, or I should say lunch with the team every 2 weeks. And that's mostly to get them to come into the office and to hang out and to try to build some of that team bonding. But at this point, we're pretty much fully remote. I would not need this facility, but because I have my ritual where I go to the office. I really like a space where I can do my work. And then when I leave that space, I don't do my work.
So that's what I was getting at. So do you think by having the office and your own space carved out, it allows you to not, that helps with coming back and talking to your wife about business after hours? I do think that that's when I'm there, that's kind of my persona.
For me, it's exactly the case. I've had situations where I worked at the home. My work gave us the flexibility to do that as an engineer. And I was always so distracted. Oh, what's going on? Oh, I smell food. Oh, you're doing this. Oh, the kids just came home. And all of those distractions, I noticed my productivity just went way down. And so I always enjoyed having a space to go to ensure that I was able to not have all of those distractions. So all my guys have the ability to come in the office if they want to, but really we support the determination of what the people are doing and whether or not they're doing their job based on KPIs, OKRs, as the predominant measure of whether or not we're accomplishing the things that we're supposed to be accomplishing.
You know, it took me a long time, it took me about a year to figure out how to work from home. Because I was like you, I was during the pandemic, I'd go to the office, I'd be the only one there. Even on weekends when I had extra work, I would go to the office and I would work out of the office. And now that I have VPM, we don't have office space. So I work out of my home office. And it took a while for me to set those boundaries up where, because work can consume you, it becomes your identity. And when I leave this office, my study here, and I go into the kitchen and I start talking to my wife about work, I realize I'm like, that's kind of a boundary that I shouldn't be doing that. So I actually try to have meetings with my wife in her office upstairs or my office down here, and not in the living room or the social spaces. Because we're trying to do something like you're saying, because we don't want our whole life to be about the business. I think it's a big part of our life, but it shouldn't be the whole life. How does your wife do? Like, so you have your boundaries and you have your ways to combat this. What about your wife? Does she talk business after after a certain time, or how does she deal with it?
Yeah, so one of the unique things that we did actually is I don't manage my wife. So I'm, integrator, visionary, she's a BDM, and I have a sales marketing manager that kind of separates us. And it becomes a little bit awkward for him, but we have noticed that there's situations that becomes uncomfortable for the team where because of the fact that we have our own personal relationship with each other and are able to speak critically to each other about whatever it is. Like people see it and they're like, "Ooh, that's like touchy." So, we've kind of made a conscious decision that I don't really manage my wife because, again, what's interesting about our marriage is what makes my wife a great spouse doesn't make her the best employee always. And what would make her the best employee always would not make her the best spouse. So I love that she is, a free spirit and she pulls me in all these directions. But because she's a free spirit, she's always pulled in all these directions. And maybe she doesn't always get focused where I would need her to get focused if I was, paying a high level BDM. And so So what we've tried to do is actually have a little bit of separation. I have my sales marketing manager do one-on-ones with her. We do talk about things, but I'll say sometimes she'll send me something. I'm like, why are you sending this to me? Why not send it to, the manager? And then if he needs to engage me, he can, wanting to keep a little bit of separation. So, we don't really, to be honest, I don't really talk much about work with her. I give her lots of praise like a team member. But we definitely try to keep certain aspects of it separate. I know for me, I'm uniquely great at accounting and operations, and I'm uniquely not great at sales marketing. So, having someone else that's leading that organization, I'm a support person in it, kind of allows us to have some of that separation. So we don't actually talk much about work, still to this day. And we try to do that purposefully so that we can save our marriage.
Well, I think I did something smart there because I same thing. My wife does not report to me at VPM. She does work with VPM, a portion of the time. She doesn't have a full-time job with VPM, but she does do a lot of stuff, and I have a report to other people. So I think we both, and to her credit, she never pulls the owner card, right? Because our wives, through extension of us, are owners of the company. And so my wife never pulls the owner card when she reports to somebody. Which my business partner, he would be the sales and marketing, like kind of VP, and I'd be the CEO, and he had to report to me, and he would throw the owner card around every once in a while. And that was a difficult situation to get out of, because when you're 50-50 owners, it becomes a stalemate.
Yeah, and there definitely, that does cause some issues periodically. She doesn't pull the owner card either, but she'll say something, and people feel like they're stuck because they feel like she's the owner's wife, right? And so that does cause some problems at times. But we try to mitigate it and explain and try to have her understand the dichotomy. I hate in general people that play the owner card. What I like to think is I'm here to serve my team, not to mandate to them, you have to do this, you have to do that. And in serving the team, you'll find that they want to work for you that much harder. Whereas playing the owner card and trying to scare people into submission, I never think that's a good approach to running business.
Agree. There's this famous business coaching slide that it's like, your job is to actually support the team. The team's job is to support the client. The client's job is to support the business, and the business job is to support you. And that's kind of the circle. So,
Yeah, I
uh,
like that.
big believer in that. Yeah. If you want to, look, property management wears people out regardless, right? People get burnt out all the time. If you want to burn your people out even more, be that guy that tells them, like, do it because I said so, do it because I'm the owner, right? Like, yeah, you have to do it this way, or the highway type stuff. So you talked about, you have lots of people in your organization and none of them are in the office. So give me a breakdown of how many people you have US based versus virtual, or offshore, near shore. And then tell me a little bit about how you go about, filling the roles for those people, and just like how you find good people, and then how you elevate them so that you can take your hats off.
Sure. So at this moment, we have 12 total employees, including myself. 5 of us are local and 7 are international. We have remote teams from India, from Mexico, and Nicaragua.
Tell me the breakdown. What do your US people do? And what do your remote teams do?
So it's a great question. So the US people do some things that only US people can do. And some of them do things that remote people could do. But we had hired those people prior to us having a really strong push to trying to encourage the ability to support remote staff, wherever they want to be. So I am the CEO. I call myself the business manager. I function as the integrator and visionary. I also function as the finance manager, and we have something called special projects. I manage the special projects division, kind of as the integrator. That's my role. My wife is the BDM. I have a person who's a client success manager, local. I have a field inspector, local, and then I have my ops manager, who also is the sales marketing manager, who's local. All the remainder of the people are international. We talk about in our business, the only things that you really need to do locally are very few things. So one is office manager. I function in that role as well because I'm the only one in the office to get the mail and to scan it. We scan it into a Dropbox, and then our remote staff does what they need to do with it. Um, so office I do. The other things that have to be done locally, I would say, are finance manager, and that would be the moving of money. Because if you have a person international that moves money and they take the money from the business, like I'm not sure the other countries are going to extradite them to the US to have a trial for theft. And so every movement of money is done by me. But I could do that anywhere in the US. So that doesn't have to be done, I would say, local to Connecticut. It could be done anywhere. Field inspector has to be done locally.
Got it.
Being a licensed person, there's certain licensing requirements. I would say that has to be done locally. And the last but not least, I would say, we still like to have a personal touch as a BDM. And so I would say that has to be done locally, but a lot of people are challenging even that assumption. So everything else we have built so that it can be done remotely anywhere in the country or the world.
Right. So now, tell me what the client success manager does.
Yeah. So
That's a
yeah.
broad term. So
Yeah, so in looking at our structure is pod. And so our operations department is composed of, I think, 6 of the people. So we have about 6 direct and 6 indirect staff. The client success manager is responsible to manage the entire pod, as well as to do all communication with the client, as well as deal with any hot items, red items, things that are difficult to handle, as well as make readies, things that deal with like significant amounts of money. They would also be an interface to discuss applications, things like that. So a lot of times we want our client success manager to be a licensed person, but they don't have to be. But a lot of their predominant stuff is to manage the pod. The next second role we would say is the maintenance coordinator. They're responsible to vendors, to finding new vendors. They're responsible to receiving invoices. The client success manager is also responsible to accept the invoices and to approve them, because again, they're the ones communicating this back to the owners. So we want them to have the approval process. The maintenance coordinator is dealing with maintenance and supporting the client success manager on turnovers, make readies, hairy maintenance activities, finding vendors, things like that. Then we have the resident experience specialist. They're responsible for everything resident related. So lease renewals, if there is a resident that needs to put in a meld, we would say the resident experience specialist should call and explain how to do that. They're doing those type of activities, Section 8 discussions. Then the next would be the field inspector. They're doing move-ins, move-outs. They're doing property reviews. They're meeting inspectors for fire marshals, insurance agents, appraisers. They're doing the boots on the grounds. I consider them to be the eyes of the organization. So they're always using a camera or a video or recording videos, uploading it, and then the client success manager, the maintenance coordinator, whoever can watch the videos to be able to see what's going on in these physical properties. Then we have a leasing specialist who does everything leasing, so everything up to the point in which we've accepted an applicant and they're moving in. Then it gets handed off through a transition to the resident experience specialist. And then any and all of the accounting functions, everything that's putting in stuff in Appfolio, we have done by our bookkeeper accounting person.
So, remind me, how many do you do only single family, or do you do multifamily as well, or
So
HMO?
we do single and small multi. So probably the majority of our profile of our portfolio is 2 and 3 unit buildings. We have about a little over 100 units that we manage and about 300 or 100 properties and 300 total units.
Got it. So do you have like an equation that you're looking at now that you're a little bit more established? Do you know like when your next new hire is going to be and what that position is? And then if so, how so?
So I think we have about 20 to 30% capacity. I think we can get to 400 units. I think what probably breaks next might be the client success manager, just managing all of that and the extra stuff that goes on. I think maintenance coordinators and how I do it can probably do 600 or more units because they're not doing any of the accounting. They're not really actually even doing approvals. The resident experience specialist, I like to think could do 400 as well pretty easily. The lease renewals could take some time. A leasing specialist, I think, could use, some people say they could do up to 1,000 units in doing the application reviews and stuff like that. And then last but not least, the accounting, that might break sooner because we have them do a lot of functions, but somewhere around 400 units will break off and we'll make a second pod. And then some of those, like I've had maintenance coordinators that are also resident experience specialists, so they can do both functions at the same time if they're only doing like 200 units, let's say. And you could have a field inspector if you only have 200 units that also does resident type activities. So there's certain things that roles that you could kind of combine together. When we had started, we had field inspector and client success manager being the same role because they were local, and then we had maintenance coordinator and resident experience specialist being combined. So the different ways that we can skin this cat and kind of utilize those roles creatively so that we don't need to hire 4 or 5 more staff when we break off a new pod.
Yeah, one of the things that we did at Empire is we had our existing org chart, and then we had an org chart for the next 5. Like that was going to be the next 5 jobs that we felt we needed to hire for, and then we had an org chart of what it looked like when it was completed. And we started looking, and we started getting really good at, okay, we knew how many doors we're bringing in per month. Right, it became pretty like clockwork. Like we were getting like anywhere from 25 to 30 doors a month, single family. And then we knew that after, we also knew how much churn we had, which was higher than I like to admit, And so I knew that I was getting X doors a month, right? At least it was still positive, not negative, right? And then we knew, okay, after that, we knew, okay, then if we just follow this over the next X amount of months, 5, 6 months, we have this many doors. And then we knew, all right, it now takes us maybe 2 weeks to find somebody, 2 to 4 weeks to train them. So I got to find somebody when I need them. If I start looking for that person the day I need them, I'm already too late. And so I would need to find them a month or 2 prior to actually I needed them. Do you find the same kind of same deal? Did you follow some rule like that?
Yeah. So again, for the last year or so, we haven't seen a lot of growth in our company. That's why we're focusing so much of our attention on sales and marketing, right? Connecticut's a different beast. We still have all-time high housing prices. People, like a lot of our clients, are selling to owner occupants. It's a different world in Connecticut than it is a lot of other parts of the country. I wish I could get to 25 to 30 units a month. That's our goal. That's our big, hairy, audacious goal, is to be able to do things like that. But yeah, we were hiring people that we did not expect that we needed because we wanted to have excess capacity. It's a blessing and it's a curse. It's a blessing because they are trained. It's a curse because I find that they can get to be a little bit complacent, right? If you have 200 units and you have the ability to run 200 more units of excess capacity and they're only half time, well, when you get the units, they're gonna be like, this feels a lot, right? And it's not. It's just that they haven't been used to it. And so that's kind of my experience. Is I've always been a little bit over staffed relative to the real needs. But I still like that because I'd rather be able to have like seamless transitions for my people or for my clients. So that's kind of how I try to do it. So I would predict, okay, we're making good progress. And so
I've run
that's
it
how we
both
go.
ways. I run it both ways, and it's much easier when you have excess people and then you bring on the business, and there's just less stress and less churn versus bringing on the business. And now I need to, and literally training people as they're working, right? Versus like I can train you ahead of time, so to speak. So
Sure.
I get it. So you're big on team. You're big on finding team. So give like, so people listening to this are obviously property managers, hopefully they're growing, and hopefully that they need to look at team here in the short-term future. So give me a couple of tips, tricks, or just processes that you use when you hire people, regardless if they're US based or near shore.
Yeah, so a couple that I would say are really important to us. The first is that we read the book Who, and I built out the top grading process for it. And so that's been very helpful to when I do the interviews, we ask really good questions. One is like, what are your goals? I just want to know uniquely what they're trying to do and trying to be and see if there's any alignment. My US based people, I want them to have a passion for real estate in some capacity. Internationally, I just want to hear that they have, bigger ideas, bigger goals for the future. It's also one of our company culture is, or two of them is always improving. And so we want to see that people have big goals. The next thing that we ask in that process is, what are things that you're uniquely great at? What are things that you enjoy doing and that you've been told that you're really good at? And we do that because we want to put people into those places to be successful. In the next question is, what are you not good at, or people have said that you don't like doing and that you shouldn't do? That's a hard one because people don't ever in an interview want to say that they are bad at anything. But I always explain it like, I don't like computer programming. I'm not going to be good at it. So don't put me into that position. I know I'm uniquely great in these other places. So put me here and we'll thrive. Put me here and we're not going to have success. And I think when people are mature and they have that understanding of what they're great at versus not, that actually allows you to have a lot more success. And so I'm always trying to pull that out of people. And it's hard, but it's super valuable if they're willing to admit it. Players.
What you just did right there, is you found people who embody your core values, and you just did a disc profile without really doing a disc profile and finding out if they're in the right seat.
Sure.
Those are the two main things. All right.
Yep. So continuing on, and then pull it out any of the bad stuff that they have, or that they don't like. And I do that, and I explain to them, look, life is not worth going to a job you hate. We want to put you in a position that you're going to be successful. And then what we do is we also ask, based on their resume, who were their bosses? What would their boss rate them on a scale of 1 to 10 and why? Right. And it's all from the Who book. They talk about, if they give you a 6 or 7, that really means like a 2. So, if you have too many of those, you got to find out like what's the reason. And it might be a red flag. If they should have 8, 9s, and 10s ultimately. And so from there, we can get a relatively good idea of whether or not they're a good fit. With the US based, we continue on and we do in-person interviews where we do a lot more of the full top grading. For the remote staff, that's our final process. Before that, we do disc profiles. We do a video of them with speaking English about why they want this position. We do a lot of the traditional things that you would do to make sure that the remote staff is able to provide good service, make sure their internet is working well, things like that. So that's the first process to pre-screen, and then after that we end up actually doing that half-an-hour interview. A lot of times I'll do it with, especially in that situation, 2 or 3 people. I'll bring my ops lead in with me as well as one of our remote staff. A lot of times I'll let the remote staff talk with the other person so they can give an unbiased opinion about our company, our culture. If we think that it's a person that we do want to hire, we want to give them an opportunity to ask real questions to, a fellow countryman, for example, so they know what they're going to get themselves into. So we're trying to get people to like exclude themselves, especially if they're good, if they're not going to be able to fulfill our company culture. So that's basically our process to interview and then make a choice on a hire.
I love it. It's actually very similar to some of the stuff that we're building in VPM right now. We're building a disc course right inside so they can take a disc, and you can actually search by disc. We got self-interview questions, so you can actually have a couple of interview questions before you spend time interviewing people. We have the video profile already, so a lot of things that you had thought of, we're actually building inside the platform. So it'll be cool when all that stuff comes out. So what are some common mistakes that you've made or that you see people make when they are hiring people?
Yeah, so some of it was, one of my biggest mistakes that I've made was hiring people because people said I should hire a person. So I had a situation where I used to be, my property management company, I incubated underneath my brother. What does that mean? He has a property management company in Connecticut. So when I quit my job as an engineer in 2018, I went underneath him because he was trying to really focus on accidental landlords, and I wanted to focus on strategic investors. And so he basically kind of guided me for the first few years. But a number of the first hires that I had were ones that he said, hey, if you end up hiring this person, he could be really good or really bad. If you like build into him, this could be an amazing hire. And those were some of my worst hires. Just inevitably, like I felt too much like I was going to try to change the person and I was going to help them realize their full potential. And I still am like that with my entire team. I'm like, there's so much more in you. You can do so much more. I want to help get that out of you. And that's a lot of what my company is about, is trying to help build these remote staff to be entrepreneurs, things like that they never thought possible. But with some of these other guys like that were US based, I think that they didn't really want it. They didn't really want it to that level. And they, like so many US people, they complained and didn't want to do that. With respect to the remote staff, the vast majority of the remote staff that I've hired are still with me. I think I had to let one go because he basically stopped showing up to work. But and I've given other ones some chances a number of times. We've done kind of employee improvement plans, making sure you set really clear expectations of what is needed. My belief on it is, unfortunately, with staff, I like to follow the philosophy of trust but verify. So we do use Time Doctor. And so like if I feel like someone's taking advantage of the situation, I just go in, Time Doctor, I look at all the screenshots, I see whether or not they're actually doing work or whether or not it's the same snapshot for a number of times consecutively. And that can kind of tell us that the person's not really doing it, what's necessary. But and then it's really trying to hire for people that have that aptitude that you want, the company culture. If you really only hire for the company culture that you want, you're going to have more success because you're going to cue in on those unique attributes that the person's expressing as part of the hiring process. So ours in particular is called SWOT. So serve first, serve well. That's the foundation of our company culture. Then it's win together and lose together. It's about accountability and teamwork. If I hear someone says, oh, he didn't do this or he didn't do this, I get really upset because we're all in this together. We're all winning and losing together. Then it's always improving. I'm on this growth. I'm on this kick to try to become the best I could be. And I want people around me that are trying to become better every day. And then technologically focused is the T. And that's about utilizing and leveraging technology to help us be more efficient, to provide a better service to our clients, not to replace people. So hire for culture, fire for culture. Like those are all the things that I think will help you be able to really have success.
Just curious, you mentioned Time Doctor. Do you use that for your US based people too?
I don't, and I probably should, but I don't. The problem that we have is the US based ones, they're always on different computers. So they have my own computers here, which when they're here they use, but then they use their own computers at home. So it's like kind of this kludge thing together, whereas our remote staff are always on the same computer. So I do Time Doctor for myself, but I don't actually do it for my staff. One thing that we do though is we calculate. So Time Doctor, it also gives you how many hours they worked, but it also gives you their percentage of productive time, which is defined as so many keystrokes in a 15-minute period. And so we kind of look at that with respect to the role, and sometimes that might flag something to look at as well. So
I find that one of the biggest mistakes people make is that they have a one way of hiring and managing a remote team, but then they don't use the same methodologies for the local team, whether they're remote or not, right? Like they're local,
sure,
but they never come into the office, like Time Doctor or or just focusing on the hours versus like, well, I remember when I was at Empire, my project manager would gather around the water cooler, they go out for smoke breaks, they take 2 hour lunches. But I didn't care about their productivity or I care about their productivity, but I didn't care about their, are they putting in the hours they say they're putting in? But then my people in Mexico, when they work for me, I'm like, wait, you didn't put in your, you put in 8 hours you're supposed to, you only put in seven. And it's like, I'm like, I got this thing all backwards, man. The people in the US I pay way more higher. I'm like, I need to make sure that, they're being productive versus putting in the hours. And
sure,
I changed that concept with my remote team. All
yeah,
right, Sam, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back for the lightning round. You ready?
looking forward to it.
All right, everybody, we'll be right back. And then we're going to put Sam on not the hot seat, but the lightning round. We'll be right back. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. We got Sam, and he's getting ready to do the lightning round. Sam, are you nervous? You should be. It's a
A
big.
little bit.
All right. What PM software do you use?
We use lots of property management software, but our accounting software is Appfolio.
Just to go back, you use a lot of software, but Folio is the main PM software. Got it.
Correct.
What do you want on top of that? Anything else?
Uh, Lead Simple, Property Meld, Tenant Turner, Rent Check. We just started using Notion, Abodia for our maintenance, Right Signature for e-signature, which I don't really like. I'm sure I'm probably missing some more things from
Yeah,
the
that's
stack,
good.
but there's a lot.
What is one piece of advice you'd give someone just starting out in the PM business?
Ooh, one of the pieces of advice that I really like is build your business for what you want it to be, not what it is today.
Like it. What was your first job?
Lifeguard. My first job was a lifeguard back when I was 16.
What is your ideal vacation?
I love one of the things my wife and I want to do is to walk. It's called Camino Santiago. It's the walk through Spain and Portugal. It's like a pilgrimage and it takes a few months, but you meet people. It's kind of like low key. You kind of decide if you want to keep going or hang out with people for another day. It kind of to me sounds like perfection.
That sounds like a nice bucket list. Does pineapple belong on pizza?
I know this is a tough one. I'm going to say yes. I do like my pineapple with bacon on my Hawaiian pizza. Like it's kind of a guilty pleasure. My family has it when it's super loaded. It's got the sweet and savory. So I'm going to say yes.
I thought a good guy from Connecticut where Pepe's is, and was the other one Sal's? I thought for
Sally's and Modern, and there's a bunch of others as well. So there's some delicious pizza places, but
they didn't do pineapple back in the 80s when I was living in Connecticut.
I wouldn't eat pineapple in any of those places because they would definitely throw me out. But I mean, it is a guilty pleasure.
What is something that most people don't know about you?
Um, One thing that most people probably don't know about me is that I have a really big family. I'm one of five kids. I have six kids myself. My dad is one of seven kids. And so we're a big family. I have 27, there's like 27 or 28 grandchildren from my grandmother. My generation has 18 nieces and nephews and cousins and stuff. So part of a big family.
Holy crap. Yeah. I'd like to see what the family
Food
reunion.
bill.
It's
Yeah.
like you need to like rent a whole city out. If you could have dinner with anyone alive, who would it be?
Ooh. Um, I don't know. Maybe one of the people. Actually, I know Warren Buffett. I would do Warren Buffett. I always thought that would be a great thing, and I know he does it. And I was always like, oh, do I have $1 million to have dinner with Warren Buffett? Warren Buffett while he's still alive.
Got it. All right. What Disney character do you most associate with?
Disney character. Um, Maybe Aladdin. I think that I'm a little bit like I'm a little clueless and inspirational and stuff like that. But I'll say Aladdin.
And what do you prefer, dogs or cats?
Neither. I'm not really a pet guy, but if I had to pick one, it's really hard. I probably would say cats because if I said dogs, my kids would convince me to get
All right, Sam. If somebody wants to reach out to you or they want to start, want to connect over social, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Yeah, so you can find me on social media. I'm probably the only Sam Eddinger. I think I have two Sam Eddinger accounts, so either of them are me, but the one that has more friends, that's really me. But also you can email me at sam, at ironcladpm.com. It's IRONCLAD, P as in Peter, M as in Mary.com. You can also call me directly. My phone number is 860-254-7343. 860-254-7343.
Thanks a lot, Sam. And if you
Thanks,
want to
Pete.
join NARPM, go to narpm.org or call them at 800-782-3452. And if you want to be cool like Sam and have a bunch of remote team members, give VPM Solutions a try. It's free. It's vpmsolutions.com, or you can give shoot me an email at pete@vpmsolutions.com. Thanks again, Sam, for your time. Appreciate you. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Pete.